anime opens with Evangeline, a 700-year-old vampire, sharing her thoughts on eternal life. She reflects on how living that long becomes painful, especially when time keeps moving and the people you care about fade into memories. Even though she's forced to keep going alone, her attitude shifts when she thinks about Tuta. Just the thought of him grounds her again, making her grateful for another beautiful day. Meanwhile, we see Tuta and his friends hiding in a tree, waiting for the right moment. They plan to ambush Evangeline, or Yuki Jaime as they call her, as soon as she gets close. The second she walks by, they leap down to attack her, hoping to land a surprise win. But even with the numbers and timing on their side, she stops them with a magical barrier and immediately knocks them back like it's nothing. Turns out, she's actually their teacher. She tells the class that anyone who can beat her in a fight will be allowed to leave the village and head to the capital. She uses this moment to flex, rubbing it in that they failed again and embarrassing them in front of everyone. That's when it's revealed she's also Tuta's legal guardian and has raised him like a son. Still, she shows him no mercy and brushes off his whining like it's nothing. Later, after class, another teacher tells her she should ease up on the students. At first, she pushes back a little, but then quietly admits that maybe he's not entirely wrong. After that, we follow Tuta and his friends walking together after school, talking about how they'll take her down. Now that they know she can use magic, they try to plan around it. They're set on reaching the capital so they can climb the massive tower located there. Tuta eventually splits off and runs ahead. It turns out today's the anniversary of his parents' death. They died in a car accident 2 years ago, and now he's visiting their graves. He tells them how things are going and shares that he's doing fine. We also learn that he lost all his memories in that crash, so he doesn't remember anything about his life before. Thankfully, Evangeline took him in and raised him like family. He finishes talking to his parents and also stops by his grandfather's grave. Just as he's leaving, he sees a red-haired guy with a staff standing in the distance. The figure tells him that he's waiting at the top of the tower, then disappears before Tuta can ask anything else. That night, Tuta begs Evangeline to teach him magic, but she flat out refuses. A few days later, after another failed attempt to beat her, he and his friends accept an offer from Mr. Tachibana, the same teacher who told Evangeline to go easy. He agrees to secretly teach them magic. They start training with wands and practicing fire spells, but no matter how hard Tuta tries, he just doesn't seem to have the knack for it. Seeing that, Tachibana gives him a special bracelet that can block magic. He tells him all he needs to do is get Evangeline to wear it somehow. Later, Tuta stresses over how to make her believe it's just a gift. Luckily, when she walks by and sees it, she accepts it without question. The next day, she's out in public wearing the bracelet when the boys spring their trap. They teleport in and pin her down using magic. Tuta, still unable to use spells properly, races to the meeting spot on foot, giving it everything he's got. Evangeline admits the plan was clever. With her magic sealed by the bracelet, she's completely defenseless. The kids cheer and celebrate how strong they've become. But just then, Tachibana shows up and flips the entire mood. Without warning, he knocks them all out cold and summons a storm of deadly spears, launching them straight at her. With her magic blocked, she can't shield herself and takes every hit. It's revealed that Tachibana is actually a bounty hunter sent to eliminate her. Without wasting a second, he conjures a sword and moves in to finish the job. Right as he's about to strike, Tuta arrives and swings his wooden blade at him, but Tachibana shrugs it off. He instantly teleports behind him and slices off Tuta's arm without hesitation, leaving him frozen in shock while calling him a failure. As he moves in to deal the final blow, Evangeline steps in and blocks the sword with her own arm. She tells Tuta that his gift made her genuinely happy. She also says his and his friend's effort was enough, and that they earned her approval. But the moment doesn't last. Tachibana coldly mutilates her, slicing her body to pieces right in front of Tuta, who's left speechless. Right after, he drives his sword into Tuta's body. We watch as Tuta drifts through what seem like his last moments, full of regret over everything he didn't achieve. Just as he begins to accept his death, he sees Evangeline lift her head. She tells him something shocking. He can be immortal too, just like he now has to make a decision. Either die right there or come back to life as a monstrous being by drinking her blood off the ground. Completely confused, he watches as Evangeline collapses. Then, without thinking much more, he leans forward and licks up the blood in front of him. Meanwhile, Tachibana is just about to finish off Tuta's friends when he suddenly gets interrupted. The boy throws his own severed arm at him, then charges forward with full determination. Tachibana reacts quickly, using brute strength to knock him back, and follows it up by casting explosive magic straight at him, sending him crashing to the ground. Even so, the moment his body hits the dirt, he pushes himself up again, this time bursting with rage and energy. The power builds up around him as he gathers it all into his fist and launches a massive punch aimed directly at his opponent. The blow sends Tachibana flying into a nearby car with a loud crash. After that, Tuta blacks out, only to wake up later next to Evangeline. She calmly explains everything that happened and tells him that he's now immortal. She also opens up about who she really is and finally reveals the truth about his parents. They weren't killed in an accident like he believed, they were actually murdered. She confesses that before they died, his parents begged her to take care of him. Feeling overwhelmed by guilt, Evangeline tells him how sorry she is for turning him into an immortal, knowing the kind of pain that kind of life brings. But he doesn't seem upset. Instead, he thanks her for staying by his side all this time. He admits that eternal life might not sound like a good thing, but at least he gets to spend it with her. With that, the two of them decide it's time to leave. It's no longer safe to stay in this place, so they begin a journey towards the capital. He also has another reason to go. He wants to meet that ghostly figure he's been seeing. The journey kicks off with both of them walking through the empty, run-down streets of the region. That's when it sinks in. Most of Japan's population has dropped, and nearly a quarter of the land is no longer livable. With nobody around for miles, the long roads feel like ghost trails. All that early excitement about reaching the capital and meeting new people just fades away for Tuta. Later, he takes a breather and dips into a nearby lake, floating calmly while reflecting on his new immortal life. But that peace doesn't last. Out of nowhere, he bumps into a baddie in her birthday suit in the water. She's just as shocked and immediately pulls out a sword. Wait a minute, girls don't have swords. She starts swinging without hesitation and forces him to dive away in a panic. Turns out that girl is actually a boy. The one he ran into is Kuromaru, whose delicate, girly face completely threw him off. Once the awkward intro cools down, they start talking. Kuromaru mentions he comes from a loaded family linked to the Great Tower, which gets Tuta instantly hyped. Then the mood shifts. Kuromaru admits he's on a mission to eliminate Evangeline. Things get tense fast when he realizes Tuta is so ugly he has no reflection. That's a red flag. And right on cue, Evangeline appears. Kuromaru charges in without a second thought, swinging to kill, but she blocks it with no effort. She follows up with a brutal punch that blasts a hole through him, dropping him in seconds. Tuta stands frozen in shock, but then Kuromaru's body starts healing. That's when it becomes clear he's immortal too. He gets back up, ready for round 2, but Evangeline stops him cold. If he wants another shot, he'll have to take down Tuta first. Kuromaru doesn't hold back. He attacks full force, and even though Tuta doesn't want to fight, he has no choice. They clash hard, trading rapid sword swings and blows fast enough to impress Evangeline. Eventually, Kuromaru breaks through and lands a clean hit, slicing Tuta's head clean off. He thinks it's over until Tuta snatches his own head midair and pops it back on like it's nothing. Without missing a beat, he drops a punch that knocks Kuromaru out cold. Afterward, Kuromaru's too embarrassed to face him and begs to be finished off. But instead, Tuta offers him friendship. Later, they're soaking in a hot spring. Tuta spends the whole time trying to break the ice and win him over. Even after they sign a contract, Kuromaru stays distant. So naturally, Tuta pulls off some dumb idea, scaling a cliff to spy on Evangeline for fun. Kuromaru wants no part in it, but Tuta goes anyway. At the top, he spots a tiny blonde girl and realizes it's actually Evangeline's real form. The adult body is just a disguise. Then she throws out the weirdest training challenge ever. If he can grab her towel, she'll show him her body. Tuta's not impressed. He flat out says he's not into flat chests, which earns him an instant ice barrage. She blasts him so hard he falls off the cliff, but Kuromaru catches him just in time and slingshots him back toward her. Tuta manages to grab the towel in midair and technically wins. But when she actually starts undressing to honor the deal, he shuts it down again, saying he's just not into older women. That gets him stomped into the dirt repeatedly. At least it works. Kuromaru finally cracks up and lightens the mood. He he agrees to officially join them. On top of that, he accepts Evangeline's offer to become her student. With the group now set, they continue heading toward the capital. Along the way, they wonder if other immortals might be out there. That gives Tuta a big idea. Why not gather them up and use their powers to help people? Evangeline laughs, saying she once had that same dream. In fact, she and a friend actually tried to make it happen. Before she can go into more detail, a convoy of sleek black cars pulls up and cuts off the road ahead. Armed agents step out, bowing respectfully in front of her. That's when she drops the truth. The group already exists. She created it herself, an entire organization of immortals just like Tuta imagined. Its name, UQ Holder. The scene picks up with the group traveling by boat toward the organization's secret base. Tuta's energy is through the roof, clearly excited about what's ahead. Meanwhile, Evangeline has a quiet talk with one of her subordinates, Karen, who makes no effort to hide how much she dislikes Tuta. She's not a fan of his childish behavior or his total lack of respect. But after hearing Evangeline out, it's revealed that both Karen and Tuta are the strongest members of the group, which is exactly why Evangeline insists they learn to get along. Once they arrive at the base, Tuta meets Gengoro and Iku, who show him around and explain the basics. They tell him that UQ Holder is made up of all kinds of immortals, magical beings, monsters, and everything in between. They also let him know that he and Kuromaru have to pass a trial before officially joining. Each of them has to land at least one hit on their assigned opponent within 7 days. Karen volunteers to fight Tuta, while Gengoro agrees to face Kuromaru. Right as the trial starts, Tuta rushes at Karen, but she easily deflects him using a hammer. Kuromaru doesn't have much luck either, since even after charging in and swinging repeatedly, he still can't land a single blow. Later, both of them sit down, exhausted and frustrated, wondering how they're supposed to get through the trial. That's when they spot a worker named Shinobu struggling with trash bags. After she trips, they help her out and introduce themselves. Turns out she's just a regular human with no powers, working at the inn. Tuta offers to help her with her chores to clear his mind. Later, we see the two of them carrying boxes of dishes to a storage area. Along the way, Tuta hears a mysterious voice guiding him. He follows it down a long staircase that leads to a massive cave with a strange building inside. They head toward it, where they meet a sloppy-looking drunk guy who turns out to be Jinbei, a high-ranking agent of the organization. Despite his appearance, Jinbei is actually the second most powerful member after Evangeline. He shows Tuta a magic sword forged by a legendary wizard. It's stuck in a giant stone cube. Jinbei suggests Tuta give it a try, since he's currently unarmed. At first, he refuses, but eventually decides to go for it and quickly realizes it's nearly impossible to pull out. Jinbei starts explaining the sword's history, but before he can finish, Tuta hears the same voice again. He follows its instructions and tries one more time, this time managing to free the weapon. He soon finds out that the voice is coming from the sword itself, which introduces itself as Kurobo. The sword complains about being bored and says it chose Tuta as its new partner. Jinbei, who clearly expected this, goes on to explain what the sword can do. Whoever masters it can control its weight, which makes it deadly in close combat. But he warns Tuta that it'll take serious training to use it right. Tuta's all in, so he and Kuromaru start training hard. They sharpen their physical skills and work on mastering their weapons, all to prep for the trial. When the day comes, both of them face off against their assigned opponents. Kuromaru throws everything he has at Gengoro, who dodges and blocks all his moves with ease, though he compliments how much Kuromaru has improved. Even so, he notes that Kuromaru is still too predictable in his attacks. While Kuromaru struggles to find an opening, Gengoro suddenly goes on the offensive, landing a series of powerful hits. Things look rough until Kuromaru remembers how Tuta handled his last fight. He decides to copy that move, charging in and letting himself get his arm cut off just so he can grab Gengoro and stab him in the back. It works. Kuromaru wins and officially passes the trial. On the other side, Tuta is still clashing with Karen, who keeps dodging and blocking all his swings. At one point, Tuta finally manages to make her stumble using Kurobo's weight manipulation ability. He's about to land the finishing blow when he hears Shinobu screaming nearby. She's being attacked by a group of giant monsters that appeared out of nowhere. Tuta instantly drops the fight and rushes to help her, but Karen stops him and tells him to wait for the right moment. She distracts the monsters while Tuta gets Shinobu to safety, then goes back to finish the job. After placing her in a safe spot, Tuta jumps back into the fight. He dials up his sword's weight to 50,000 times normal, then slams into the monsters like a falling meteor, wiping them out on impact. Later, Evangeline congratulates both him and Karen. She mentions that the monsters likely escaped from the lower part of the facility. After realizing the trial time has already run out, Tuta begs for 5 more minutes to finish the fight. Karen says no, but then points out that her earlier stumble could technically count as a hit. That's enough for Tuta to pass. With the trial done, Evangeline gives him and Kuromaru their first mission: head down and take out the rest of the monsters that escaped because of them. Tauta and Kuromaru kick off their first real mission, sent out to assist Karen in the field. They head toward District 21, a place totally abandoned by the capital and buried in poverty. Their job is to help the people living there, especially the ones who've got nowhere else to go. Once they arrive, the team spends time at a local orphanage, where Tuta ends up cooking for everyone after losing a game of arm wrestling. The kids are amazed at how good the food is, and even more amazed he can cook at all. While chatting with the woman who runs the place, they find out something darker. She says a group of thugs keeps showing up at night and threatening to kick them out. That's why they called in UQ Holder for help. Later on, we see Tuta trying to master a move called Quick Step, which is supposed to boost his speed and power. But right as he thinks he's got it down, a random man flies in and smacks him across the field with one hit. The guy then tells him he's doing it all wrong, but Tuta's too mad to listen. The stranger says he's a traveling martial artist and offers to teach him hand-to-hand combat, but Tuta brushes it off and says he's only learning Quick Step so he can beat Karen in arm wrestling. She told him the move would help. Curious, the man shows off his insane speed, even zipping around mid-air without touching the ground. Then he introduces himself as Kaito and says Tuta's got potential, so he agrees to help him train. That night, Tuta tries a wild new method, cooking and eating using only his feet. His friends think he's totally lost it, but somehow, it works. The next morning, his speed has noticeably improved, though Kaito still isn't satisfied. Over the next few days, Tuta keeps training non-stop, doing everything with his feet to sharpen his control. Meanwhile, Kaito meets up with 2 sketchy men in the shadows. After explaining why he's late, he transforms into a full-on werewolf. Turns out, all 3 are immortal hunters sent to wipe out the villagers. Back in the district, 2 UQ Holder guards keeping watch are suddenly taken out by creepy shadow-like creatures carrying guns. At the same time, Karen gets ambushed while taking a bath. She doesn't notice her attacker until he's right on top of her, but she reacts fast and throws up a barrier just in time to block the bullets. Then she grabs his own gun and fires back. Unfortunately, he blocks the shots easily and starts talking trash before charging in again with a blade. Even though the whole situation's a mess, Karen holds her ground and manages to land a few solid hits. He slashes her neck, but nothing happens. Confused, he keeps attacking until Karen lands a brutal punch to his gut. She pins him down, but he pulls out a hidden weapon and shoots her directly in the mouth. Karen drops to the floor in pain. That's when we learn the guy's name, Chow, and even though Karen doesn't take real damage, she still feels everything. Chow casually admits he's just here to stall her. Back with Tuta, he's picking up trash with a little kid named Ruki when they notice smoke rising from the town. The same creepy monsters from earlier are now torching the place. Before he can react, 3 of them pop up and go straight for Ruki. Tuta jumps in to protect him, joined by Kuromaru just in time, but they're not alone for long. The rest of the shadow creatures show up with the 2 remaining hunters. Tuta tells Ruki to run, then squares up for a fight, but out of nowhere, Kaito speeds in and tags Tuta with an anti-vampire seal. Just like that, he's knocked out of the fight. Kuromaru is left on his own to take on everyone. Meanwhile, Karen is still getting worked by Chow. He traps her with his shadow powers and starts torturing her while she's pinned. Back outside, Kuromaru fires off a flashy opening move that looks like fireworks before jumping into a full-on battle. The fight gets messy fast. Kuromaru takes heavy damage, even losing an arm, but manages to slice off one of Kaito's arms in return. Both of them heal up mid-fight and get back at it like nothing happened. Then Kaito activates Quick Step and blitzes Kuromaru with lightning-fast hits, closing the distance in a flash. He follows up with a savage combo and finally slices Kuromaru clean in half. Kuromaru's body, split in half, gets pinned down by 2 metal signs that Kaito hurls to keep him restrained. Just when he's about to finish the job with a spell, Ruki jumps in and blocks the attack. At the same time, Chao continues torturing Karin, clearly thrilled to be facing someone like her. Back with Kuromaru, he starts straining against the metal, desperate to break free and save Ruki, who's now been captured by Kaido. That's when the kid overhears the truth. The enemies aren't here on a personal mission. They're just following orders from people living at the top of the tower. After a brief explanation, they get ready to eliminate him. But before they can strike, Kuromaru breaks free and throws himself forward, saving Ruki even with his body still torn apart. Then, out of nowhere, Tuta shows up right in time, leaving everyone stunned. Elsewhere, after enduring non-stop torture, Karin finally reveals the truth behind her immortality. It's tied to a divine blessing. With no other option, she taps into one of her stronger forms. She rises into the air, surrounded by blinding light, wiping out the surrounding shadows and then beating Chao down with a storm of lightning-fast kicks and punches. Meanwhile, Tuta explains that he somehow absorbed the seal, even though he has no idea how it happened. His enemies realize he's way more powerful than they thought. He looks down and sees his arms covered in dark armor, radiating some weird aura. He doesn't understand what it is, but he focuses on the fight. Without wasting a second, he launches forward and knocks them flying with one hit. Kaido charges in next, but Tuta uses his new powers to dodge, counter, and go blow for blow with the werewolf. Karin jumps in to back him up, and that's when Kaito reveals his true form. Tuta questions why he's doing all this, and Kaito casually admits he lives for battle. He says it doesn't matter who or why as long as he gets to fight strong opponents. With that, they go at it again, both moving and striking at speeds most people wouldn't even see. They're both masters of quick step now, and the whole fight looks unreal. After witnessing Tuta's new strength, Kaito offers to make him his real student. Tuta shuts it down immediately. In response, Kaito pulls out a special move called Blazing Piercing Judgment. He uses Quick Step to break the sound barrier, slamming into Tuta's chest and ripping out his heart, which he crushes in his hand. Then he starts casting a sealing spell to end it. But suddenly, huge black wings explode from Tuta's back. His body starts pulling the shattered pieces of his heart back together while unleashing a massive wave of energy. One of Kaito's teammates realizes what's going on. This is Arabea magic, a super rare dark power. Only 2 people in the world have it, and one of them is Evangeline. The old man explains it's tied to the final secret of immortality. It gives insane strength, but risks completely consuming the user's soul. Now fully overtaken by the power, Tuta lunges at Kaito with brutal strength, hammering him over and over. Just as he's about to land the finishing blow, he suddenly hesitates and starts fighting to take control of himself. After a moment, the dark aura bursts away from him, leaving him badly wounded and drained. Even so, Kaito, beaten down by the onslaught, admits defeat and surrenders. But Tuta refuses to accept the win, saying it wasn't really him fighting, so they agree to settle things for real with arm wrestling. During the match, Tuta tries to talk some sense into Kaito, saying his view on the world is warped. In the end, he beats him fair and square, powered by nothing but pure will. Kaito, still on the ground, tells him to go ahead and finish it. Tuta says, no, not happening. The old man shows up, says the job's done anyway, and leaves with Kaito. Before anyone can react, the villagers watch in silence as their homes go up in flames. But then Evangeline appears and freezes the entire village, putting the fire out on the spot. The team regroups, and Evangeline compliments Kuromaru's earlier fireworks signal, saying it helped them track everyone down in time. Then the enemies reappear briefly, where the old man recognizes Evangeline and seems surprised. She shifts into her true form and greets him. He creates a portal with his weapon, steps through it with Kaito, and disappears. Later that night, the villagers host a big dinner, offering food to the ones who saved them. While they eat, Evangeline tells Tuta it makes sense he inherited Arabea magic too. After all, they share the same blood. Meanwhile, from the shadows, a mysterious man spies on Tuta through a drone. Back at the secret base, things start to shift as Kuromaru realizes something big. She's catching feelings for Tuta. The jealousy hits hard when she sees him hanging out with Shinobu, laughing like it's nothing. At one point, she's taking a quiet bath and thinking about everything, when suddenly Karin barges in and catches her totally exposed. That's when Karin discovers the truth. Kuromaru is actually a girl. Backed into a corner, Kuromaru explains everything. Her clan is born with both sexes until they turn 16, and then they get to choose which gender to live as. After hearing this, Karin goes full aggressive, throwing punches while asking what Kuromaru plans to choose. She even tells her to stay female so she can keep Tuta away from Evangeline. It's clear she knows exactly how Kuromaru feels. That's when Iku shows up out of nowhere and slides in with a solution. Soon after, Kuromaru shows up dressed like a girl and introduces herself as Kuryu, pretending to be her own cousin. She asks Tuta if he'll take her out for a day in the capital, and he agrees without a second thought. They borrow a jet ski from Shinobu and head out, but on the way, they spot a strange little girl wandering around the lower levels of the base. She looks like she's up to something, but Tauta shrugs it off and keeps moving. The rest of the day goes surprisingly well. Kuromaru gets to explore the capital with him and slowly starts realizing this really is more than just friendship. Eventually, they make their way to the tower, totally unaware that someone's been spying on them the whole time. Meanwhile, Evangeline has a serious chat with Jinbei. She's worried about Tuta's new powers. Even if it's not evil energy, it could still attract the wrong attention, like Fate Avarunkus, the guy watching them through a drone. That same man, a high-ranking figure from the tower, gets notified that Tuta's now in the capital. He decides it's time to make his move. Back at the tower, Tuta and Kuromaru finally arrive, and he's pumped beyond belief. While they talk, Kuromaru starts to think maybe she has a real shot. Tuta even says she looks good as a girl. But right as she's about to act, Chao shows up out of nowhere and traps Tuta in shadows, locking him down. At the same time, another mercenary with a ton of swords rushes Kuromaru. She fights back, but for some reason her strength feels off. She starts wondering if it's because she's in her female form. She ends up getting overpowered and watches in frustration as they drag Tuta away. Pushed to the edge, she snaps out of it and lands some heavy blows, almost breaking them both. But one of the mercs knocks her straight through the wall, sending both of them falling off the tower. While they fall, the guy keeps attacking, landing a hit that knocks her out cold as they crash. After that, Chao arrives and traps her in shadows too. As she sinks slowly into his trap, she starts thinking back to the good moments she's shared with Tuta. Even though she's beat up and stuck, she pulls herself together and powers through the pain. With one final push, she breaks free, lands a huge punch on Chao, and pulls Tota out of the shadow prison, now fully back in her male form. Just then, the police show up, and the mercs decide to retreat. Later, Kuromaru explains everything to Tuta, but keeps the Kuryu lie going. She says she's fine just walking by his side, no matter which form she chooses, but that's when she hears something unexpected. Tuta says he found Kuryu super attractive, like marriage material level attractive. And just like that, Kuromaru starts rethinking her whole plan. Back at the base, we finally learn the name of the strange girl from earlier, Kiri. She's been busy performing some kind of ritual. When Iku asks what she's up to, she simply tells him something big is coming. Tauta and Kuromaru meet back up with their team, and it's there that Tuta finally meets the mysterious little girl named Kiri. The moment she sees him, she demands a private talk. They head into a nearby alley where Kiri, for no clear reason, starts throwing her weight around, acting like his superior in UQ Holder. She accuses him of not saving her when he should have. Tuta's confused and insists this is literally the first time they've ever spoken. Before she can explain, someone moves in lightning fast and slashes her neck. Kiri collapses, bleeding out on the ground, while a shadow darts off along the wall. Tuta assumes it's Chao again. As she bleeds, Kiri tells him to take her hand. Moments later, her power activates, and the world rewinds. They return to the morning of that same day, back when Tuta was still supposed to be in the capital. He's totally thrown off, wondering if he's dreaming, but Kiri starts breaking it all down. They meet up with Karen and Iku on a boat and ask for a ride back to the city. During the trip, Kiri explains everything in detail. Her ritual with the sand works like a save point, and every time she dies, she rewinds back to it. If someone's touching her, she can bring them with her too. She's angry because she had to relive that alley scene over and over, but wasn't able to take Tuta with her until now. She warns him that something major is coming, and he's the center of it. We jump forward to the first meeting again, where Kiri leads Tuta into the alley. She starts telling him about someone she met during a meeting at the tower, but before she can say who it was, Chao attacks again, this time aiming to finish the job. Luckily, Tuta blocks the strike in time. After a second attack attempt, he charges up Kurobo to 100,000 times its weight and smashes Chao so hard he flies into the sky. Kiri continues explaining what she saw. Before deciding to rewind time, she witnessed Tuta getting captured by a man named Fate Avarunkus, the strongest mage in the world. He wiped out every one of Tuta's teammates in a single battle. With no other choice, Kiri had to end herself to reset time and try again. Tuta is left stunned, trying to figure out why Fate would come after him. Kiri doesn't know, but she's sure of one thing: if he gets captured, it's over for everyone. She says the only way to stop it is to use her power again. But before she can continue, Karen and Iku show up and finally figure out what Kiri's ability really is. Later, we see the whole group riding a train, discussing everything. They agree to keep her powers a secret. If the wrong person finds out, someone could easily take advantage of it by killing her on purpose to force a rewind. After laying down strict ground rules, Kiri lays out the plan to trap Fate. The idea is to bait him into a spot where he can be held long enough for her to bring everyone, including him, back to her last save point in the underground cave beneath their base. Once each person understands their role, they spread out and wait. That's when Tuta wonders why Evangeline isn't helping, since Fate is that strong. Kiri says if she were nearby, Fate would sense her instantly, and the whole plan would fall apart. Right then, a blonde girl in a hood bumps into Tuta and quietly places some kind of seal on his back. He doesn't notice and keeps waiting. Later, curious about his enemy, he searches for info online. Suddenly, Evangeline calls and tells him everything. Fate used to be a hero who fought side by side with Negi, Tuta's grandfather, and with her too. But after Negi died, Fate lost his way and turned on the world. She says Fate is after Tuta because of that connection. Before hanging up, she warns him not to believe anything Fate says. After the call, Tuta's mind starts racing. He wonders what Fate really wants, and whether he might have something to do with his parents' death and the reason he lost his memory. When the time comes, the group locates their target. Iku finds him using satellite tracking, and the plan is to hit him with a giant orbital laser at the exact moment. But just as Fate enters Tuta's line of sight, he spots his friends from the countryside visiting the tower, and they're dangerously close to the target. Tuta yells to cancel the laser shot, forcing them to keep going without that part of the plan. Tuta's friends spot him and run over to say hi, so he plays it cool and tries not to act suspicious. Meanwhile, one of Fate's followers ambushes Iku and slices off the hand holding the satellite controller. At the same time, Fate approaches Tuta and calmly says he knows everything about him, his friends, and the entire facility. He threatens to kill the two kids nearby and everyone else in the area unless Tuta cooperates, putting him in a tight spot. But instead of backing down, Tuta sticks to the plan. He pulls out his sword and yells that there's a terrorist in the building to alert the civilians. Right after that, Karin appears and lands a surprise attack on Fate. Tuta joins in, and together they launch a combo strike, but it gets blocked by a magical shield. Tuta quickly adds weight to his sword and breaks through the barrier, causing massive destruction. At the same time, Iku regains access to the satellite and fires the orbital laser straight at Fate. The moment the blast hits, the rest of the team makes their move. Kuromaru and Kiri rush in to complete the final phase of the plan, while Fate struggles to absorb the laser's energy. Kiri manages to grab onto Fate, and two of her teammates make contact with her. But just as she turns to reach for the others, her body turns to stone. The plan fails on the spot, and everyone realizes their key player is down. With their chance ruined, the agents consider retreating, but Tuta refuses. Fate took heavy damage and lost some of his power, so he sees a shot to fight back. At the same time, more mercenaries show up and begin taking on Tuta's teammates one by one. While everyone's busy, Tuta gives everything he has against Fate. But his enemy is on a different level. He uses magic perfectly and handles all of Tuta's physical attacks like it's nothing. Eventually, Karin contacts Tuta and tells him that a strange countdown appeared above Kiri's arm. They both agree their best option is to trust her and stall for time. Tuta keeps Fate busy, taunting him and dodging blows while the timer runs down. Just before the countdown ends, he slams Fate to the ground using the sword's insane weight. He falls back and regroups with the others while holding his ground. As soon as the timer hits 0, Tuta grabs Kiri's hand and her petrification breaks. The team gathers around her while she stays in contact with Fate, who's still pinned down. Kiri then activates her ability. sending the entire group, including their enemy, back in time to the underground base where they had set the save point earlier. Once there, Fate comes face to face with Evangeline after 20 years. Just seeing her puts him on edge, and he moves like he's ready to fight, but deep down, he knows it's over. He admits defeat and agrees to answer one question from each of them in exchange for being released. When it's Tuta's turn, Fate reveals his goal to use Tuta's power to save Negi, his grandfather, and along with him, every person in the solar system. He says they have around 20 years to pull it off. Tuta listens, but then hits him with the real question, did he kill his parents? Fate says yes. Hearing that, Tuta unleashes his dark aura and says he has no choice but to beat him down. But right then, a magic seal appears in front of him, and a ghostly vision of Negi shows up. His grandfather tells him that Fate is lying, but also not entirely evil, that his actions, as twisted as they seem, were meant to help Tuta in the end. As this happens, Evangeline speaks telepathically to Kuromaru, ordering him to find and destroy the device embedded in Tuta's body. She's certain it's what's making the illusion appear. Kuromaru acts fast and slices the seal forming on Tuta's shoulder. That breaks the link, and the spirit vanishes before he can finish revealing the full truth. After answering everyone's questions, Fate finally leaves, but Tuta's still left with a head full of doubts. He tries asking Evangeline for answers, but she refuses to respond and just walks off. Not long after, an older blonde woman arrives at the base with a group of girls. They request a meeting with Evangeline and ask for Tuta to join them as well. Later, we see him having tea with Shinobu when one of the new girls, Mizore, suddenly barges in and challenges him to a fight. Without warning, she accuses him of being from a bloodline of women abusers and killers, then rushes in to punch him. Tuta deflects the blow and sends her flying straight out the window. He jumps after her and catches her midair, landing on the roof with Mizore in his arms. That's when she reveals it was all just a test, and that he passed. She proudly announces that he's now her boyfriend. Tuta shuts it down immediately, saying he doesn't even know her. From that point on, Mizore goes full force, trying to win him over. She wears Shinobu's clothes and makes a ton of food to impress him. Meanwhile, the other girls on the team start feeling jealous. It's clear they have feelings for Tuta too, so they watch quietly and try to figure out what's really going on. That's when Iku appears and casually tells them about a love trick, a hot springs spell, where you wash someone's back 50 times to make them fall for you. The girls aren't totally convinced, but decide it's worth a shot. On the other side of the base, Evangeline sits down with the blonde woman, who turns out to be another former student of Negi. She tells her what happened with the spiritual image of him earlier. They both realize Negi was captured a long time ago, and that any vision of him now only appears because his captor allows it. The woman tells Evangeline that even though she's scared for Tuta, she has to let him face his fate. Meanwhile, Tuta's in the hot springs with Iku, who's stalling to buy the girls some time. While they chat, Iku reveals that even though he looks young, he's actually 72. His real body went into a coma when he was 13, and scientists moved his mind into a robot. Somewhere out there, his actual body is still asleep. While the two talk, the girls get ready to make their move. And yes, Mizore hears about the hot springs trick too. Surprisingly, Karen is the first to arrive. She charges in and tries to wash Tuta's back by force, but Kiri kicks her away before she can finish. After that, chaos breaks loose. All the girls rush in and start fighting for a chance to reach him, but the one who actually manages to complete the task is Evangeline. She runs into him by chance, sits down, and offers to wash his back herself. While doing so, she finally apologizes for ignoring him earlier and admits she just had a rough day. Later, Tuta meets her at the dock for a real conversation. She shows up in her true form and opens up. She tells him she's in love with Negi and always has been, but the vision he saw earlier, that wasn't fully his grandfather. She explains that 20 years ago, Negi defeated a powerful dark mage named Lifemaker and saved the world. But after being beaten, that mage possessed his body. She adds that both she and Fate have been trying to save Negi ever since, though they've chosen very different paths to do it. After splitting ways, each continued on their own. At that moment, Tuta brings up his parents, hoping to confirm whether fate was telling the truth. But what Evangeline reveals instead is even more shocking. His parents aren't dead, because he never had any in the first place. She tells him he wasn't born like other people. He was created just 2 years ago using Negi's genetic data, which means he isn't just connected to his grandfather, he's his clone. The next day, Tauta shares the shocking truth about his origins with Kuramaru, who does his best to lift his spirits. But even with his friend's support, the poor guy's clearly still trying to process it all. That's when Mizore bursts into the room like it's her place and invites him to the capital. She wants him to enter a martial arts tournament like it's the perfect way to shake off an identity crisis. Soon after, they're strolling through the crowded city streets, checking out the fighters and soaking in the chaotic energy. Hyped up and recharged, Tuta heads off to figure out how to register. Unfortunately, all the slots are already taken. Still, he decides not to let it ruin his mood and just promises to try again next year. That's when Mizore's great-grandmother shows up out of nowhere. She introduces Tuta to Tatsumiya and Chachamaru, 2 more former students of Negi. With zero warning, she snatches him away, saying they've got something important to discuss and Mizore just has to deal with it. Meanwhile, Evangeline hears her old crew has reunited and decides to head to the capital too. Back with Tuta, the girls lead him to a classroom where Negi used to teach. There, he meets Sayo, a literal ghost, and another former student. They all gather around, expressing how much they care about him, not because he's just a clone, but because he carries Negi's legacy. They say if Negi were here, he'd treat Tuta like a real grandson, and honestly, they already see him as one. Things get a little emotional as the girls hug him like he's family. Right then, Tatsumiya gets a call from the tournament staff. Turns out, they need a last-minute replacement for a fighter. Cut to the next scene. Tuta walks out onto the battlefield to loud cheers from the crowd. Across from him stands a cloaked opponent named Cutlass. The bell rings and the match starts fast. Tuta charges in, trading rapid blows, only to realize this opponent is a lot stronger than expected. From the sidelines, Sayo and Kuramaru start to worry. They can sense Cutlass is radiating a dangerous bloodlust. Meanwhile, Tatsumiya checks on the injured fighter who dropped out and learns that Cutlass is the one who took him out to steal his spot. On the battlefield, Tuta's still struggling to land a clean hit. Cutlass outclasses him in every way, using brutal strength and elemental magic. Then it gets personal. Cutlass calls him a cheap clone right before slashing him clean in half. Tuta hits the ground, but doesn't stay down. He gets up, seething with rage as his dark aura takes over. He charges in, but Cutlass counters like it's nothing. She rains magical swords from above, pinning him to the ground with blades that nullify magic. While he's stuck, she keeps taunting him, calling him worthless, telling him he'll never measure up to Negi. But the moment he hears his friends shouting from the stands, he pushes through, breaks free, and lands a punch right to her face. That punch knocks her hood off, revealing she's actually a woman. She shrugs it off and says she'd love to finish him, but they're out of time. Suddenly, Negi Springfield descends from the sky. He steps in and says he's here to take Tuta with him. But Tatsumiya and the others instantly panic, knowing this isn't really Negi, it's the Lifemaker pulling the strings. Negi tries to convince Tuta they need him to save the world, but the conversation goes nowhere. Before things can escalate, Evangeline arrives. She shatters the barrier separating the battlefield from the crowd and steps in. She exposes the truth. This isn't Negi at all, just the Lifemaker in disguise. But before she can do anything else, 2 of her former classmates show up and trap her with their magic. Moments later, a massive man drops from the sky and charges straight at Tuta. Luckily, Karen and Kuramaru jump in to block the hit, and Kiri shows up with his sword just in time. As the pressure builds, Evangeline breaks free from the magical restraint, and with that, Tuta and his crew regroup, ready to face off in an all-out fight against the Lifemaker and his loyal goons. Kiri tries to buy time by talking her way out, hoping she can stall long enough to figure out a plan. She speaks carefully, trying to convince her enemies to stand down, but one of them immediately sees through her act. This girl has the ability to read minds, so she exposes everything Kiri is thinking before she can even decide on her next move. At that moment, Lifemaker's followers reveal that Tuta is the only successful fusion of Negi and Asuna's genetic material. They explain that he was never meant to be free, and they calmly ask him to come with them. Of course, he refuses without a second thought. Suddenly, a mysterious voice rings out, telling Tuta that he'll be taken away. A dark portal opens and drags him through, pulling him into another world. When he wakes up, he's glowing like a spirit and finds himself in a strange realm. He spots Evangeline injured in the distance and runs to help her, but stumbles before reaching her. The scenery shifts around him, and just then, Albareo Ima appears. He introduces himself as the powerful mage who created Kurobo, the talking sword. Kurobo instantly warns Tuta not to trust him, pointing out that Albareo could probably embarrass Evangeline herself if he wanted to. Albareo says his only goal is to persuade Tuta to join Negi, so he decides to do that by showing him a glimpse of the past. In this vision, he reveals the love story between Evangeline and Nagi Springfield, Tuta's great-grandfather. Then the scene transitions to her romance with Negi 15 years later, when he was still her student. Watching Evangeline smile and laugh in those memories fills Tuta with joy, so he thanks Albareo for letting him see it. That's when the mage casually admits that everything he showed was a lie. Immediately after, the dreamlike version of Evangeline notices Tuta and walks toward him, but before she can say a word, a woman wrapped in dark aura appears behind her and traps her in shadows. Taking advantage of the moment, Albareo launches a sneak attack. He slams multiple spears into Tuta's back while he's distracted. Then the shadowy woman steps forward and introduces herself as Yaldaboth, also known as the Mage of the Beginning, or Lifemaker. Without hesitation, she splits Evangeline in half using her power, while Albareo controls gravity to keep Tuta completely pinned. Even though he's wounded, he refuses to give up and starts dragging himself across the ground to reach her. Meanwhile, Yalda tells him there's only one way to save Evangeline. He has to go with her and accept his destiny. Tuta finally reaches her and lifts her into his arms. With tears in her eyes, she tells him that all she ever wanted was someone who would walk with her under the blue sky forever. It's a reminder of how painful it is to live an immortal life alone. Hearing this, he promises that he'll always be there for her. He then dodges Yalda's next wave of attacks and manages to carry Evangeline to a safer place. Once they stop, she explains that they're inside a world created by Lifemaker's imagination. In this place, Yalda can bend reality however she wants and make anything happen with a thought. Even so, Evangeline still has one trick left. She summons a flurry of magical seals and forms a barrier around them. Right after that, she and Tuta launch a direct assault, hoping they can finally take Yalda down. But the fight quickly turns chaotic. Yalda constantly changes shape, switching between her own form and the appearances of Nagi and Negi to throw Evangeline off. This mental warfare forces her to drop her guard. On top of that, Yalda unleashes powerful abilities that take Tuta out of the fight in seconds. He's hit hard and suddenly finds himself surrounded by a group of girls in a hallucination where they try to drag him down into a red ocean and drown him. At first, he panics and realizes he can't escape, so he starts giving up. Just as he's sinking, a new girl appears and shatters the illusion. Her name is Asuna, and she's here to pull him out of that mental trap. She introduces herself as his grandmother and explains that while Yalda was messing with Tuta's mind, she managed to slip in. She happily waves to Evangeline, who also broke free from the illusion, along with the rest of the team. As soon as Yalda notices Asuna, she tries to strike them down, but Asuna easily deflects the attack with overwhelming power. She then tells them that even though it felt like they were trapped in the illusion for a long time, less than a second has passed in the real world. So she decides to share everything she knows about their enemies while they still have time. Asuna turns to Tuta and explains that deep inside him lies the power to defeat Yalda, but in order to unlock it, he has to survive a full 37 seconds against her in battle. With a clear goal in mind, Tuta and the rest of the team return to reality, wasting no time. Immediately, everyone splits up and launches a coordinated assault on their enemies. With the intel Asuna provided, they easily wipe out the weaker opponents. At the same time, Tuta ignores everyone else and charges straight at Lifemaker with his eyes locked on her. As the battle continues, Tuta tries reaching out to his grandfather, hoping to break through the possession. But Yalda isn't having it. She instantly shows off the overwhelming power surging inside Negi's body, unleashing it in the form of a towering wall made entirely of undead spirits. Just as things start to spiral, two swords crash into the chaos. Evangeline and Fate have arrived, jumping in to back Tuta up. Fate wastes no time and casts a spell that lets Tuta see who his grandfather really is underneath the possession. The spirits of all four rise into the sky together, where they come face to face with Negi's true self. During this encounter, Fate lays out his full plan to stop Lifemaker and save the world. Negi listens and admits that the plan might work, but he also knows the odds of saving him from the possession are slim. Taking the little time they have, Evangeline wraps her arms around Negi, clinging to the version of him that's still left. Then Negi offers a few final words of support to Tota, and just like that, they're all pulled back to Earth. The battle resumes immediately, with Yalda entering a new transformation after dodging an attempt to petrify her. Fate and Evangeline launch a joint attack, but she easily overpowers both and takes them down without breaking a sweat. Tota isn't spared either. When she targets him, he gets knocked back hard, but instead of staying down, he unlocks a transformation of his own. Now he's able to match her speed and strength blow for blow. The two of them shoot into the sky, taking the fight to the upper atmosphere while their allies continue to struggle down below. In the air, Tota is getting wrecked. Lifemaker's raw power completely overwhelms him, and down on the ground, his team is getting stomped by her followers. At one point, he catches a glimpse of the destruction left behind in the city. Seeing the chaos shakes him, and he starts worrying about how many innocent people might have been caught in the crossfire. Fueled by guilt and anger, he launches himself at Yalda and lands a brutal combo of hits, flipping the fight in his favor. But just when it looks like he's taking control, one of Yalda's goons shows up and stabs him clean through with a massive sword. Tota crashes to the ground, bleeding out. As Yalda moves in to finish the job, Kiri throws herself in front of him, stopping the attack cold. Yalda pauses, clearly aware of Kiri's dangerous reset ability. That's when the mind reader chick exposes Kiri's feelings, telling everyone she's in love with Tota. The moment turns soft, until Cutlass appears out of nowhere and stabs Kiri in the back like a total menace. Cutlass forces Kiri's mouth open and yanks out a tooth, revealing the hidden suicide pill she had tucked away. Seeing this sends Tota into full rage mode, and he starts breaking out of the restraints holding him down. But Kiri, barely holding on, tells him to chill. She explains everything is going according to plan, and that all she needed to do was buy time. Right on cue, a giant magical seal appears under everyone's feet, and the group is transported to a completely different location. Once they land, all of Negi's former students are waiting. They've set a trap together, combining their strength to finally take him down. The girls throw everything they've got at him: elemental attacks, unique techniques, non-stop teamwork. And even though brute force alone isn't enough, they manage to help Negi regain control of his body. At that moment, Asuna arrives and completely shatters the illusion, bringing everyone back to Earth. She approaches Negi, and he immediately recognizes her, proving that part of him is still in there. Unfortunately, it doesn't last. Lifemaker quickly takes over again and announces that she's pulling back. She admits defeat, but before leaving, she tells Tota to meet her at the top of the Great Tower. With that, she disappears in a beam of light. Meanwhile, Jinbei and other agents, including Shinobu, help rescue civilians from the destruction left behind. Later, back at the hidden base, Tota confesses his feelings to Evangeline and straight up asks her to marry him. His mind was made up during their shared vision inside Lifemaker's world, where he decided he wants to stay by her side and protect her forever. But Evangeline turns him down. Gently but firmly, she says she doesn't need someone to protect her, no matter how much she might care about him. The other girls witness this bold proposal and immediately jump on Tota, beating him down for having the nerve to ask something that wild. Later on, Kuramaru and the girls are soaking in the hot springs, chatting away about what just went down with Tota. Of course, the topic shifts to his wild marriage proposal, and each of them starts sharing how they really feel about him. Things are light and playful, but the energy shifts when Evangeline shows up. The moment she steps in, they bombard her with questions about her connection to Tota. That's when she finds out she was his first love, and those words hit her hard, triggering a powerful memory from the past. Back then, she was near death, collapsed on a battlefield, when a powerful witch appeared. Ignoring her wish to die, the witch dragged her off to a floating castle and kept her there as a prisoner. The deal was simple. If she could defeat the witch in combat, she'd earn her freedom. So Evangeline fought her over and over again, but never managed to win. Then one day, she finds a boy sleeping somewhere inside the castle. It's Tota. The moment he sees her, he lights up and calls her Yukihime, the name everyone uses for her back on Earth. At first, she doesn't recognize him at all. Tuta assumes she must remind him of someone else and backs off a little. Later, he tries asking if she knows someone named Evangeline. Hearing that name, she freaks out and lashes out with hostility, snapping that Evangeline is just a distant relative and has nothing to do with her. After the outburst, she collapses from exhaustion. Seeing this, Tuta brings her supplies and food, trying to help. But when she gets the chance, she bites into his neck and drinks his blood to recover her strength. Instead of freaking out, Tuta just lets her continue, watching her heal rapidly. That moment confirms for him that she really is the Yukihime he knows. He starts wondering why she can't recognize him. When he asks for her name again, she simply replies that her name is Kiri. Later, when he offers to help her defeat the witch, she vanishes out of nowhere, leaving him behind. Then, 2 years pass. During a training session, Evangeline runs into him again. They talk for a while, and she quickly notices something strange. She realizes he isn't a normal human at all. Inside him, there are two chaotic energies constantly clashing. She figures all his training must be an attempt to control that unstable power inside him. From that point on, she begins helping him grow stronger, but just as quickly as he reappears, he vanishes again. When he comes back 4 years later, he's way more skilled, but swears it's only been a week. One night, Evangeline falls asleep and dreams peacefully of her family. That peace doesn't last though, as the dream turns into a nightmare filled with painful memories. Tuta wakes her up and tells her he was worried, but things take a weird turn when she asks if he saw what she was dreaming. When he says yes, she snaps and starts attacking him with everything she has. Her magic tears through the castle, and she keeps hammering him with spells. Eventually, he grabs her wrists and confesses that he loves her. He tells her he wants to help, to support her, and to repay everything she's done. The honesty catches her completely off guard, but just as he opens up, he realizes something's off. Confessing his love to the Evangeline of the past doesn't make much sense, and the moment he pulls back, she explodes with anger and starts attacking again. Still, he refuses to give up. He keeps telling her she deserves a better future, one filled with friends, love, and happiness. She hits back with the same tired story about being cursed to live alone for eternity, empty and unloved. But Tuta shuts it down, shouting that she can have all those things. She asks if he means she'll find that love with him. He tells her no. Then, with a smirk, he says the person she's meant to fall for is a red-haired legend, a clear nod to Negi. That moment of clarity hits her. They're from two totally different timelines, yet somehow their paths still cross. Back in the present, Evangeline reflects on everything. She realizes she was right all along, but it still took them 500 years to meet again. In the days that follow, Tuta and the rest of the crew return to their usual missions. Meanwhile, Kiri starts spiraling emotionally, overwhelmed by her feelings for him. She questions what kind of bond they really share compared to the other girls. After all, she doesn't cook for him, she doesn't take care of him, and she barely even spends time by his side. That thought eats away at her, making her wonder what she even means to him. Hoping for a distraction, she starts checking the stock market to calm her nerves. Right then, Tuta and Mizore burst in, inviting her to have some tea and snacks. They throw off her focus completely, and as a result, she ends up losing a huge chunk of her money. The moment she realizes what just happened, she grabs a knife and tries to end it right there to activate her time reset ability. Tuta and Mizore immediately panic and wrestle it out of her hands. But before they can stop her again, Kiri goes for her backup plan and bites into the emergency pill hidden in her mouth. All three of them slip during the chaos, and she ends up landing directly on top of Tuta, accidentally kissing him. Shocked and flustered, she leaps off in total embarrassment. Suddenly, they both notice Mizore stuck mid-air, completely frozen. Tuta assumes it's some kind of magic, while Kiri realizes something's off. Her death didn't trigger a time jump. Then she sees it. They landed right on top of her save point, completely shattering it. Now they're stuck in a paradox where time is frozen solid. They confirm it by walking around the base, seeing everyone locked in place like mannequins. Strangely, Tuta's kind of hyped, thinking Kiri unlocked some new ability. But she quickly shuts that down, explaining they're trapped, and she has no clue how to fix it. With time frozen, Tuta uses the situation to train non-stop while Kiri scrambles for answers. Despite the pressure, they grow closer, and at one point, he tells her something that changes everything. He sees her as his savior, the one who helped him pull through during his fights with Fate and Lifemaker. He thanks her for not just her strategic support, but for being his emotional anchor too. That reassurance lifts her spirits, and she finally starts feeling confident in her place by his side. But later she spots him gently tending to Evangeline, even though everything is still frozen. Watching him care for her so naturally crushes Kiri, confirming just how deep his feelings really go. Time keeps ticking, or not, and after 4 long months, he's still training hard, while she cries nearby, completely overwhelmed and hopeless. Trying to cheer her up, Tuta says, "Everything will be fine." But then he casually mentions that he's thinking of climbing the tower to visit his grandfather, now that time is frozen, and he has the chance. That hits her like a truck. She breaks down, realizing how easy it is for him to leave her behind. Through tears, she begs to know if he hates her, and he's left speechless. Later that night, they're sleeping in the same room when she quietly slips into his bed, saying she feels lonely and can't sleep. He doesn't mind at all, and the two share a rare moment of vulnerability. Wrapped in his arms, she finally hears the words she's been craving, that he'll never leave her, and she can always count on him. The comfort calms her heart. The next morning, she wakes up with an idea. She wonders if kissing him again might reset time, since everything started with that accidental kiss. Nervous but determined, she leans in and presses her lips to his. Just then, Mizore storms in, fully animated, and the rest of the base resumes moving. The paradox shatters, and times start moving forward. A few days later, Karen gets ready for work and heads into Evangeline's office after dressing up. She walks in to find nothing but a box of chocolates on the desk. Curious, she grabs one and eats it. Not long after, Tuta does the exact same thing. Later that day, he and the other agents start preparing for a wave of guests who've come to stay at the inn, which serves as a cover for their secret base. The sudden surge in popularity comes after the UQ holders saved the city, and now people are flocking in just to be near them. As part of the team, Tuta works alongside Karin and Shinobu to handle the influx of visitors. During their break, something weird kicks in. Out of nowhere, Tuta walks up to Karin and straight up confesses that he's in love with her. He says he needs her by his side, and that her strength is key to defeating all their enemies. Karin turns bright red, totally flustered, and although she clearly has feelings for him, she struggles to say it out loud. Before she can respond, Evangeline walks in and casually asks what's going on. Tuta suddenly bolts toward her and proposes marriage on the spot. Evangeline doesn't hesitate to send him flying with a brutal kick. After that, she explains to Karen that she left a powerful truth serum disguised as chocolate on her desk. Anyone who eats it can't lie for 12 hours. Realizing this, Karen starts panicking. She's already eaten one, and now she can't stop blurting out her thoughts, accidentally telling Evangeline everything she's thinking. Horrified, she runs off to stop Tuta before he blurts out even more embarrassing stuff. Meanwhile, Tuta's on a roll, running around and confessing his love to every girl in sight, leaving them all completely confused. Each time, Karen rushes in and explains the truth, trying to do damage control. Things spiral even further when he starts confessing to the male agents too, and even the guests at the inn. Finally, Evangeline puts an end to the chaos by teleporting him far away using magic. In the next scene, he and Karen find themselves stuck together in a special dimension where they're being punished like school kids for their behavior. There, Karen focuses as hard as she can to avoid admitting her own feelings. But once Tuta starts listing everything he loves about her, she nearly cracks and runs away instead. She insists that her pride won't let her fall in love with him. As he chases her down, she turns to fight, magically changing outfits in the process. That's when she realizes they're in some kind of fantasy world. The battle drags on for a while, until Tuta uses one of his abilities to strip her clothes completely, freezing her in shock. That's when he tells her again that he really does love her and wants her to fight alongside him forever. Karen, flustered and vulnerable, finally confesses that she doesn't believe she deserves his trust. She admits that in the past, she betrayed a master she admired even more than Evangeline. After that betrayal, she tried to end her life, only to discover she was immortal, cursed for having turned her back on God. She says the world is full of contradictions and pain, and she still doesn't understand why Evangeline cares so deeply about a flawed clone like him. Tuta listens and replies with complete honesty. He tells her that even after everything she said, he still loves her. Instead of focusing on the pain of immortality, he talks about the possibilities, how they can use their endless time to change the world. He asks her to walk beside him and help him make that dream real. Karen tries her best not to say anything else, holding her feelings in with everything she has. But just as she's about to give in, the illusion shatters and both of them snap back to reality, standing in front of Evangeline. That's when Evangeline tells her something that hits harder than any spell. The chocolate she ate wasn't even drugged. All those feelings, everything she said, it was all real. Karen stands there in complete shock, unable to speak, before quietly walking away. Later on, she sits in the hot springs with Kiri, talking about Tuta. Their moment is cut short when Mizori and Shinobu arrive dragging him along. They're determined to pull the same stunt from before, washing his back 50 times in a row, whether he likes it or not. As soon as they arrive, they strip him down and toss him into the bath. He lands right on top of Karen and Kiri, accidentally groping both of them in the process. Furious, the girls don't hold back. They knock him out cold and launch him sky high.